Catherine Howard was the fifth of the six wives of King Henry VIII of England. She was queen from 1540 until 1542. She was an unknown age, actually, when she became queen. We can't be certain when she was born, but we do think it was in her late teens, so she was probably about 18 or 19 when she became Queen of England, and her husband was about 49 and turned 50 in the course of their marriage. The Tudor period, and particularly that moment at the start of the 1540s when Catherine became queen, is a time in history when things were on the surface very glamorous, and I think that's why we're still fascinated by it. But they hide the fact that she was married to a king who was embarking upon a sustained period of deeply unpopular political and religious change, and she was constantly very insecure, hearing rumours that she might be divorced and set aside as some of Henry's previous wives had been. It was a marriage that, like Tudor history, on the surface offered her everything, and beneath the surface condemned her to a life of paralysis of self-doubt from time to time. She was sort of ornamental. She was a glamorous silence at the side of her husband when she was in public, and then in private she was dealing with a vast, vast household of servants. So she was in charge of one of the largest property portfolios in Northern Europe. She was an immensely wealthy young woman, even though she'd had very little relevant experience before marrying into the royal family. She had hundreds of servants, many of whom were tied to her natal family, the Howards. Her life as queen was great activity in the household and demure silence in the public sphere, where she was being watched and where she was expected never to outshine her husband, which on occasion his first two wives had done to their cost. There's a real debate over what caused her downfall and what led to her execution. Catherine's was the unquantifiable power of terrible luck. She had been, as a young woman, romantically involved with two servants who lived at her grandmother's household. Another servant told her brother that Catherine had been sexually involved with another man before she married the king. The brother went to the Archbishop of Canterbury, told him this, he told the king. They eventually uncovered a love letter from Catherine written after she married the king to a very handsome young courtier in her husband's service called Thomas Culpeper. And her servants were persuaded to testify against her, and I think that was what wrapped coils around her and ultimately choked the life from her completely. Many, many accounts of her in the Victorian or 20th century presented her as this sort of vampish vixen, and more recently we are seeing her as a naive victim of a very ambitious family who pimped and groomed her and thrust her in front of the king. And it was servants, it was what they knew, it was these people around her that were able to destroy her. But they didn't destroy a naive, passive doll of a woman. I think she was vivacious, and she was charming, and she was reckless. She was many things rolled into one. This is someone who wanted to live. Catherine, in a way, symbolises millions upon millions of people who do not want to get caught up in the tides of history. They just want to live, and they want to do so safely and happily.